And starting off this month on September 3rd, we had two, Jim Bramley and Mark Brown. And on the 9th, Lee Liu. On the 16th, we have another two, Earl Haas and Patrick Frexman. The 17th is Arthur Combs. 22nd is Gary Danny. 26th is Joel Johnson in the Morning Club. 28th is Jerry Wilford. And the 30th is Bill Leeper. Spouses' birthdays this month. Fritz Gottfried, spouse of Reen, on the 2nd. Diana Hartney, the wife of Chip Hartney, on the 10th. Susan Pache, Bill Pache, on the 14th. Carol Kennedy of Chip's Kennedy's, on the 18th. Roseanne Miser of Kevin Miser, on the 19th. Dan Stander of Tracy Stander. Wedding anniversaries. Bill Clark, married to Beth, 10 years.
Bill.
Kevin Miser to Roseanne, 34 years on the 4th. David Blackwood to Maria, 26 years on the 6th. Bill Mache to Susan, 54 years on the 14th. Elaine and Phil Calderbank, 49 years on the 15th. Myself and Jan on the 22nd, 15 years. Mary Kay and Earl Haas on the 24th, 44 years. And Gary and Carl Danny, 25th, 46 years. And members' anniversaries with Rotary. We have two on the 1st, Marion Trummer and Floyd Nelson. Floyd is 28 years, Marion is 33 years in Rotary. Jerry Brown, 3 years on the 4th. Maria Gervais, 3 years on the 5th. Connie Golis, 8 years on the 18th. Debbie Leonard, 5 years on the 21st. And Betsy Alexander, 9 years on the 26th. Hey. I don't see Scott. He was down for.
Oh, I'm taking Scott's place.
Oh, you're taking Scott's place. We'll have the inspiration and then we'll stand for the pledge.
Oh, no.
You want to join me up here, Debbie? Hold the book.
Well, I was when Tim called and asked me if I'd fill in for Scott, which I was happy to do. Of course, I started thinking what I'm going to say. Well, I was mindful of the fact that many of us lived through the time of Mikhail Gorbachev. And so I thought in this Rotary book that there might be some comments about Mikhail Gorbachev. And under the topic of peace, the chapter of peace, I'll just read a passage and a few others. Mikhail Gorbachev talked about peace is not unity and similarity, but unity in diversity, in the comparison and conciliation of differences. And from one of his pals at the time, it's hard to do with one hand, Margaret Thatcher. Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is error, may we bring truth. Where there is doubt, may we bring faith. And where there is despair, may we bring hope. And of course, as many of us remember, she was instrumental in getting Mikhail and Ronald Reagan together. And of course, from Ronald Reagan, Debbie, you really should have come up here. Peace is not absence of conflict, it is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. And then from Max Lerner, who wrote The Gifts of the Magi, you may call for peace as loudly as you wish, but where there is no brotherhood, there can in the end be no peace. And when I was reminded about 10 minutes ago on the way here, my wife called, in thinking about Margaret Thatcher, Mikhail Gorbachev, and Ronald Reagan, a constant through their three lives during that time was Queen Elizabeth. And she passed away here just a short time ago, this morning. So just in memory of those three individuals and the Queen, just a few moments of silence, please, and then we'll do the pledge. Thank you. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, since they're cleaning up our meals right now, I'll make a couple announcements before we have our meals, have the program. For the ones that didn't make the area assemblies, turned out to be very good. But the weather sort of caused a little delay getting started, having to move inside from outside. So, but it turned out to have a good presentation. So, and Connie, do you want to make your quick announcement about Rotary Readers?
I'm maskless now. For those of you that are wondering, I wore my mask because I'm on the last day of mask prevention after COVID treatment. So you're supposed to wear your mask for at least 5 days after you finish the medication or whatever. So I'm all well, but I was protecting all of you.
What a cow!
Okay, so we are starting Rotary Readers again. We do 2 schools. We do Sedalia Elementary, and that's going to be this year the same as last. Tuesdays from 10:30 to 11:30. And then Bear Canyon is Wednesdays from 12:30 to 1:30. And for those of you who might not know, this is a chance to read with first graders or have them read to you. And they each read to you for about 10 minutes. And it's always interesting and fun. And I usually ask for 2 volunteers per school per day. So I've got the sign-up sheet here. I would prefer if you do it for a whole month if possible. Of course, a month is usually only 3 or 4 times at most in the month. So see me if you want to do that. It is a magnificent experience. Okay.
Thank you, Connie. We're going to have Jerry and Jan have a special presentation. I want to talk about the military today.
Okay. Jan's a mic holder. All right. So we have 2 good events going on in the Military Support Committee. Thought I'd report to you on them. We are taking Warrior Bonfire, 10 people to a Rockies game. It's the Rockies game where they're playing against San Francisco. It's a night game. We'll be taking 10 of them. That's on Jan and I. We're treating to the game. And so, Debbie, we're not taking anything of our money yet. Keep that in mind. Okay.
This is on the Selling Friends. This isn't on the foundation.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have another one, NCOA. That's the Fort Carson Group, Non-Commissioned Officers Association, and we're taking 5 to a game, also a night game. That one's with San Diego, and will be 5 of them. So we have 15 of our veterans going to Rockies game, and that includes being in the club section, parking, food that we can get to and figure it out. But we're gonna have a good time. Mike Foss is going with the Warrior Bonfire Group, with our Warrior Bonfire Group. Looking forward to it. Thought you'd be interested in it. For the newer members, we have 20 veterans. The problem is, when I ask them to stand, they never do. So it looks like we have 2. Okay, so I'm trying to figure that one out. So we have 20 veterans and 17 from our club, 2 husbands, and we even have a retired 3-star general. Elizabeth's husband is a retired 3-star general in the Air Force. We got a great crew, so we're going to do it differently now. We're going to have all of you stand up and give the military people who serve not only responsible for serving, but also they're the ones that give us our freedom. And time again, we call on them and call on them and call on them. What's happening in the world today, we all know we're going to be calling on them again. So anyway, how about a stand up for those? The veterans don't have to stand.
And Bill, could you come up front for a second? And is your dad on Zoom? There he is. Hi, Jim.
Hi.
Hi.
This is something that we bought at the NCOA convention, and it's something that I'm very, very honored to present. To Bill to give to his dad. This is a commemoration of Jim Zimmerman serving in World War II for us. Wow. I get choked up. So, Jim, this is for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure he wants to say something.
Oh.
Would you like to say something?
Yes, I would, just very short. First of all, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate this. If I make it till December of this year, I will have 72 years in Rotary. Wow. Interestingly, I haven't kept the actual count, but I've attended more than 40 of your meetings. I tried to attend when my son was president. Few fathers and few Rotarians are blessed with having this happen. Remember, we all know that service above self is our mantra. God bless all of you, and thank you again for honoring me today. I really do appreciate it. Thanks.
Since the meal is now being served, we'll go ahead and finish serving us, and we'll have it, then we'll come back to the further program.
I didn't want to touch the button.
Well, it's time to have our program. Claudia, would you come up and introduce our program today?
Just as soon as I have a sip of my hot coffee. We don't usually get it delivered to the table. Our speaker today is Maggie Gannon, She's going to talk to us about My Living Obituary. I bought one for Guy for his birthday. I mean, it's all about planning ahead. We had a little car accident in April, and it was nothing, nobody was hurt, but it kind of made us think, you know, you think you have forever. We've never had an accident in our 71 years, and it made us kind of think, well, maybe we don't have forever. We didn't ever think this was going to happen. So anyway, he's got his living obituary, and he needs to get busy filling it out. But Maggie is going to talk to us about why it would be good for us all to have one. And just as soon as Maggie is a board-certified adult gerontology clinical nurse specialist and CEO of My Living Obituary Personal Legacy Preservation Network. She has had the privilege of working as a dedicated healthcare professional for over 29 years, focusing on leadership, program development, and patient safety initiatives. Maggie is a recognized expert in leading key initiatives to prepare institutions for successful clinical management, mitigating adverse events and cost to care. In addition, she is a national author and lectures locally, regionally, and nationally. She most recently combined decades of her professional experience to create a specific end-of-life care planning technology to help anyone sick or healthy plan for a good death through legacy building. Okay, so let's welcome Maggie Gannon. Do you want the mic over there?
Maybe. Can you all hear me? Because I'd be really loud with this. Can you hear me? Okay.
Just say, Chip. Where you're deaf.
I know CPR. Okay, and then there you go. Maximize.
All right, you got it.
Chip.
If you could use the microphone.
Okay,
Yes.
and then we can
That's
be
what she
moved.
needs it for Jim to hear.
Okay.
He can hear it.
He's got his obituary.
So do I need the microphone?
Yes.
Okay. And then, can you all see can we minimize
I
that?
can do that too.
Okay, thank you.
I think.
Well, I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, Claudia. It's a privilege to be here today. Today I'm going to talk to you about the elephant in the room. We're going to talk about what happens when you ignore the elephant in the room. And then how to coexist with the elephant in the room. And we're going to do that with a personal legacy preservation platform. So a way to preserve your life story for yourself now, and then for your friends and family after death. So of course, the elephant in the room is death and dying. How many of you just kind of like squirmed in your chair right now? It's okay to admit it. You know, a lot of people don't like to talk about end-of-life planning, but the truth is that death is part of life. It's as natural as being born. It's as natural, it happens as naturally as we inhale and exhale. And when we die, our body comes to a complete and permanent halt. It's the ultimate universal experience. And it is the mysterious constant, right? What's our mortality rate? That's right. So it's all going to happen. It's going to happen no matter what. But let's name it. How does it make us feel to think about our own immortality or mortality? Fear. Does anybody have fear about it? No? You do? Okay, that's great. Denial. I know it's there, but it's going to happen sometime, but not right now, just like Claudia was saying. Silence, diversion. I have a neighbor who's so angry about it. Like I feel like I'm the Grim Reaper, and every time she sees me, she's like, I'm not doing it today. So I get it. And you know, it's normal to have those feelings about death. As human beings, we're hardwired to survive, right? Think about the cliff jumpers as they go off the cliff and they dive in like this. I'm not going to do that, right? Because something in my head says, no, I could die if I do something like that. So it's our normal tendency to fear death. And if you think about, well, do you have a belief about what happens after you die? Right? If people don't have a faith, some people may have more anxiety and fear because they don't know what's going to come next. So everything we hold dear, all the relationship we have, it's suddenly stripped away. And it can show up without any advance notice. And that's the worst feeling is I had a friend die in a car accident. There was no notice on that. That was a hard grief to go through. And in our society and our culture, there's a learned stigma that we just don't talk about it. It's the elephant in the room. And it's not okay to talk about it in our culture. We're trying to change that. And a realized sage once asked a king in India, he said, "What is the most amazing thing you've ever seen?" And the king replied, "The most amazing thing I've ever seen is that death is taking place everywhere, but no one ever thinks it's going to happen to them." And I'm guilty of that. The reason that I developed this platform is because my husband was diagnosed with leukemia in 2020, right in the heart of the pandemic. And here I was taking care of cancer patients for 28, 29 years, and we weren't ready. So I retired from that profession, and this is what I'm doing now, because I want everybody to be prepared to die well. And my husband is alive and well, just so you know. So thank you. So there's demographic consequences of not acknowledging the elephant in the room. And these are some big statistics. So seniors or anybody with a chronic or terminal illness, they are the most vulnerable demographic with low quality of life and unnecessary suffering. Only 1 out of 3 adults over the age of 65 only have one formal end of life preparation in place. So what that equates to is by 2035, the number of adults over the age of 65 is astronomical. There's going to be 78 million adults over the age of 65. And that 1 in 3 will equate to 52 million not having any end of life plans in place. And what happens with that? How does that affect your family? How does that affect you?
Big time.
Big time, yeah. Because people, it's going to help. It's really hard to grieve when nobody has any plans in place at the end. And people lose their power, really, to have choices without planning. So personal consequences of not dealing with this elephant is we're not going to die a good death. We remain a victim. So we give our power and our choices away. Somebody else is going to decide. They can decide what to write about me. They can decide if I'm a DNR. I'm not going to deal with that. And this leads to unnecessary suffering for those who matter most. And most of our family, they're in need of direction after we die. And then the sad thing is that we're unable to preserve our life and our legacy. And that to me is a big miss, because our family only knows us as a father, as a mother, as a sister. A lot of times they don't know the whole person. So how do we acknowledge this elephant in the room? How do we just kind of reach out, touch it, kind of coexist with it? And that happens with acceptance. And acceptance is the answer to all of our problems today, right? Death is part of life. Even if you're uncomfortable right now, just talking about this is going to help to take the next step. Just talking about it. And the more we talk about it, the more it loses its power to dominate our thoughts and our lives. And then it becomes less than something that we have to cram for the night before. Because like with tests, who's ever crammed for a test? How well does it go? If you're really smart, yeah. But for me, I always had a hard time with that. And the other way that we can acknowledge the elephant in the room is to think about our life and the impact that we've had on others. Because at the end of the day, we know that with a legacy, identifying our life, thinking about that impact, if you looked at clinical research studies, it says the more that we can identify who we are through a life review, the better we feel. We know that for terminally ill patients or chronically ill folks, if they do this life review, it actually decreases pain. It decreases anxiety. And it puts people back in the driver's seat. during one of the times that most of, like in our last chapters of our life, a lot of people feel powerless because we start to lose the ability to make choices. But by doing this, one remembers and regains their sense of self and their dignity. So it increases quality of life, it assists with acceptance and helps one navigate life's last chapter. So let's talk about legacy. And I remember you guys talked about legacy a lot at the beginning of your meeting, right? We remembered the veterans in the room. And think about the legacy that you're creating within this Rotary Club. That's part of your life and your legacy. And what does that mean? It's the need and desire to be remembered for the difference one makes in the world. It's how we communicate love and appreciation after death. It's also the ongoing foundation of life. So with our legacy, we have the
Will, are we
opportunity
having a meeting
to
today?
pass on traditions from generations before us too. Like, this recipe's been in the family, this is Grandma Becky's recipe. It's a way to leave a lasting footprint, and it cements your life's work. So there's two types of legacy, a financial legacy and then a non-financial legacy, and that's what we're gonna hone in on today. And there's two types of legacies. If you think about, you have these noteworthy legacies, the kind that just totally change the world. They're direct and profoundly changing the world. So for instance, a noteworthy legacy, come on, who's this guy? That's right, and he said, your worth consists in what you are and not what you have. I think that's what that said. And does anybody recognize this lady? Rosa Parks. I would like to be remembered as a person who wanted to be free so other people would also be free. So that's Miss Rosa. All right, who's this guy? That's right. Never let the fear of striking out get in your way. So Babe Ruth, and then our last notable legacy. Does anybody recognize this lady? That's right. Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may try less, lose less. I can't persevere less. For some reason it didn't show up. Sorry about that. And then for other mere mortals, such as myself, I'm focusing on my relational legacies. So this is a direct and indirect way of creating a lasting footprint remembered by those whose lives we've touched. So relational legacies have this progressive and profound impact on other people. Like every person that Tom's ever touched, right? That's his legacy on them. Well, how has he contributed to their life? It's really slow. So there's a lot of different relational type legacies. We create one in our family, our career, the communities that we live, the Rotary Club, your travels, what religious organizations, athletics, life events, volunteering, military service. These are all relational type legacies. So a lot of people say, well, I can't really think about what was more important and what wasn't. You know, some people like to define themselves. My primary legacy was my career, and my complementary would be my family. And that's up to, each person to decide. So for instance, this is Astrid Martin, and she kind of separated her legacy out. And Astrid said that her primary legacy was her family and my 2 sons and 5 grandchildren. I also hope I'm leaving a good legacy as a good great aunt and a loyal and loving sister and friend. Her complementary legacy, I've been teaching since the age of 25, and teaching is my legacy, my contribution that hopefully enlighten the lives of my students, whether they became actors, scientists, doctors, mothers, or yogis. So then we asked, well, let's talk to her students about the legacy that they left. How did she affect their lives? She helped foster a love of science in me. She impacted my life through her encouragement, her passion, and her leadership. So as we're sitting there talking about this, does anything come into mind about your life and your legacy and the impact and the footprint that you've left? Because I want to circle this back here to the Rotary demographics. Right, so you guys are a huge group, 1.2 million members worldwide. with over 35,000 clubs. And we know that the demographics within the Rotary Club, they're aging, right? So especially in North America, the younger demographics are in Africa and India. And this has been recognized within Rotary International in Chicago, that the Rotary Club, people are living longer and they're getting older. And there's no formalized structure in place to remember a member's legacy. And you guys, you just gave someone a certificate, a legacy certificate today, but a lot of times people's death notifications and their legacy are posted online after the fact. So how does your group communicate a death? How is it found out when one of your members passes away? You announce it. Is it in real time? And is there a place to go and remember their legacy? Where their life stories posted? Okay. Well, these are just things to think about because you're making such a great contribution. I think Mr. Zimmerman said he'd been a Rotary member for 73 years. That's quite a legacy within this group. So as you know, as a group, and you have put some thought in this, you may want to think about how would you like to be remembered for your legacy, not only with your own family and your friends, but in your other communities like the Rotary Club. And my solution to this is this platform that I'm going to kind of review with you right now, because with this legacy site, you can all be part of this and find out in real time when one of your members dies. And I'll show you how it works. So Claudia was good enough to share, she started writing her legacy and with her membership on the platform. So I'm going to pull up Claudia's membership.
I see we know your middle name. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Want me to hold the mic? I'll just kind of stand.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so with the platform, you're gonna log in, you create a membership, and this was made, it's very easy format to follow, it's 7 steps. So the first step is you just put your basic information, name, date of birth, and where you're living. And then you continue, and you select someone who's gonna publish your story after you die. So first name, last name, and that person's email. When you hit continue, this generates an automatic email notification to the executor, and then they accept it. And then after death, they'll publish your funeral details. And remember, we're putting you back in control over the last, through the last stage of your life here. So we want to give you a lot of choices. So you can choose to tell us about the neighborhood you grew up. Where was it? Where did you raise your kids? Where did you spend the golden years and the years active? Where did you go to school? Grade school, high school, college. What are the important clubs and organizations you belong throughout your life? So you can just keep making a list here and add as you go. And then the story part comes. So this can be overwhelming for certain people because you're like, well, I don't even know where to start, right? So there's a writing center at the bottom. So there's examples of what other people have written. And I actually, as a clinical nurse specialist, I integrated clinical research into this platform called Dignity Therapy. And we were giving people a life review. You're going to take a stroll down memory lane, and you can choose between 7 different categories to write about. So whatever resonates with you. So where would you like, let's start with ancestry and family. What is your family lineage? What geographic region did they immigrate from? What in your immediate family, where are you in the birth order? Who is the most famous person in your bloodline? So it kind of just gets you going about what you would want to write about. And then when you're done, you could do life events and special moments. List major life events. biggest ways the world has changed in your lifetime. So there's lots of different things to get you writing, to share your story. And so let's go back to your story. And if some people, for some reason, a lot of women love legacy work, women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, they're signing up to take a class with our online obituary specialist, and they're rating.
Are we meeting today?
How to write their story.
It's at 3 o'clock, right?
Okay, someone
Oh,
else.
okay, I'm a half an hour early, I'm on another call. Okay, that's my fault.
So you
Okay,
can upload
try
as
to be
many
there.
photos.
Thanks,
Of the
bye.
wrong one. Okay, so how do I cancel that? Okay, you can upload as many photos as you choose to the site. So you want to upload your primary photo with additional photos. You can choose a charity to make donations to in your memory. And then this is the part that keeps us all connected so we can all grieve together as a community. You can list as many email addresses as you want to receive automatic notification after you die. So your doctor's office, your dentist, the chiropractor, the Rotary Club, all your friends, the religious organizations that you belong to, all you have to do is upload your email and everybody finds out at the same time. And then at any point you can go and you can preview what your legacy is going to look like, what your story. Now this doesn't really look like anything because Claudia hasn't started it yet, but it's a very beautiful, it's designed beautifully, and it tells your story, and it lists all the communities that you belong to. And then most recently, this is more of the clinical research, I've included a legacy letter. And does anybody have any unfinished business with someone? Or are there important things that you would like to share with a group of people or just one person? So with a legacy letter, it's a way to communicate love and learning to anyone, anywhere. And it's a permanent way to bridge the gap between life and death, binding us together as family, friend, or community. So you can actually choose to send this to one person or a group of persons. So I did have a few email addresses of members of the Rotary Club that I sent fake legacy letters to. And if you've received one of those, please forward it to the rest of your group along with the obituary I sent out so you can have a look and feel for this, because this is really powerful. Because if you have a family, there might be things you want to say individually to each one of your children, or your brothers or your sisters, but you may want to send people just a big message just to say, I love you, thank you for being part of my life. And the increase in quality of life comes in where you can actually choose to send it now while you're still alive. Because that's where we feel better. We're having this opportunity for closure and getting to know each other. So you can actually decide if you want to save the letter or send it after you die. So send now, send after death, or you can just save it as a draft. So Claudia started working on a letter for you all. And this is in the very beginning stages. So this is Claudia's letter, and this would be where her picture is. And it's gonna say a personal living legacy letter from Claudia's heart to yours. So dear Rotary friends, Claudia, would you like to read it or would you like me to read it?
You can read it, I can't see it.
Okay. I'd like to thank Debbie Leonard for thinking that Guy and I would be good Rotarians and for bringing us to our first meetings. It never would have occurred to either of us to join if it hadn't been for her. A couple of things helped us to decide to stay with it. One, you had a good golf league for Guy. Two, I needed to meet some new people, having just moved from a whole life in Wisconsin. And three, the four-way test. Who could not love the four-way test? I want things to be true, fair, beneficial to all concerned, and to build goodwill. Over the years, I've learned that to all concerned means all. This is not America first or only help your friends or ignore people you disagree with. Rotary is all about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it is not political or religious, which is good because I haven't met anyone yet who agrees with me about everything. So essentially, like this is a beautiful way, and can you just imagine like being in this club and then they die and you get sent a personal message. So any questions about what I just talked about? It was a lot and my mouth was moving really fast. Yes.
So with the prevalence of social media, are there ways of notifying people's Facebook or Twitter accounts when they've passed? Because for many people, that's how they stay connected with friends and family, is through those social platforms.
So after this is published out, and I'm sorry I couldn't connect to my staging site, after you receive the death notification, you can share it up into any platforms, and it's like a guest book, and everybody can leave a message. You can send flowers. You'll be able to plant a tree, a memorial tree for them soon. So yes. Any other questions? Yes.
So somebody has to know about your platform and I guess have the login information
That's
to send it out.
No, so what happens is, and I apologize because I couldn't show this process. So if somebody dies, you get the death notification, and then it says log into My Living Obituary. So then you log in and you can see everything and post in the guest book. And then if you share that out to somebody else, they do the same thing. They log in and they share. Does that make sense?
How do you find out when someone passed?
Oh, okay. So the executor. So you're choosing, so Claudia chose Guy to be her executor. So after Claudia dies, Guy says she died on this date. This is the funeral arrangements. And then he presses publish. Then we get alerted, our team gets alerted, and we validate the death. Because we don't want any, false information. We don't want fake news. So we call the funeral home and we validate it, and then we post it out.
So, a couple, someone passes away and they have each other as executors. Is there a system to have someone update their executor? Like if they forget or don't realize, then it gets sent to somebody who...
Yes, and that's coming because it's on my list of having a second executor. Because you never know. Good point. Yes?
I don't know how it really gets started. Do we sign up for something with you?
Well, there's two choices. You can, an individual membership, right now it's $25, and it's your permanent legacy site forever. It's gonna go up $10 at the end of the month to $35. Or if you want it, you can vote as a group and discuss this. I can actually give the Highlands Rotary Club their own dashboard, and you pay one fee and it's unlimited membership. So instead of, everybody, how many members do you have? 9. Let's just pretend 90 people wanted to do this. So that would be, what's 90 times $35? Okay, so I'm charging for an annual fee for your club, it would be $400 a year, and if you want to do this, somebody would be in charge of entering all your members and sending you invites, and then everybody would have their own legacy platform. Yes?
What happens if you go out of business and we have our life story out?
That's a good question. So we're an LLC, and if that would happen, the expectation would be the website would be maintained with whatever business purchased My Living Obituary. Yes?
What about if I, as a Rotarian, become part of this group plan, and my husband, who's not a Rotarian, I want him to have it too?
So he just signs up as an individual user.
Okay.
So he just goes online and signs in.
Okay.
Yes?
What kind of security do you have on this? Because there's a tremendous amount of information that's floating out there. If anybody accesses it, it'd be better than getting your social security number.
Yeah, there's no social security number information on here, but we have firewalls and we have the standard. I can ask my web developer, he's a big guy that works in some tech company in Boulder, but it's very safe. We check it, they run tests and we get notifications, and there's a big firewall there. Yes?
How often do you need to update the protections that are standard, like your name and birth date, but other things like the letter and whatever
You
happened.
can go in whenever you want. You can edit it at any point. And it's just as you go along. And I send out reminder emails because I'm like, hey, have you worked on your legacy lately? So you'll get like an email from My Living Obituary to say, you've been gifted the gift of time, start working on your platform. Claudia, did you get one of those? Oh, come on.
So if you gift that to someone, do they get an email saying you've been gifted with this?
That's on the list too. That's on my top 10. But right now you can just call them and say, I'm gonna buy this for you. You can sign up together. And if you wanna buy it, you can just put your credit card number in there.
I just told Guy to get busy. Because he wanted, his thing was, he wanted, we're both at a point where our parents are gone, and there's all these questions we wish we had asked them.
Yeah.
But we thought we knew it all then. And that's where our kids are now. And Guy said, if there's anything you want to ask us, just ask. And they all think, you know, they're too busy right now. And they all think they know everything important about us. And so he wanted to write these stories down. So I said, I'm getting this for your birthday, so now you can start writing your stories down. And then they can find it when they're done. So, and it gets you thinking too. When you start writing, you think of more and more. And the other thing that I liked about it and wish I had known, when my dad was dying, it was so hard to think of things to talk to him about, partly because he had dementia. But if he could reminisce. If I had more guidance in what to ask him, I could have written stories in there that we all would have loved to have heard, because he could remember World War II, just not what he had for breakfast.
It's true. It's true. And it's really neat it's a gift to be able to watch the exchange between father and son or daughter, because these kids, their face just kind of like, well, why didn't you ever share that with me before? You know, I didn't know that when you got home from school when you were in 8th grade, all your belongings were on the curb because your mom and dad didn't have enough money because it was the Great Depression and you got kicked out. Like, and it was just, I was like, oh, this is powerful. You know, so it's an opportunity to really share your life with those that you love. Any other questions?
Well,
yes.
some statistics you had at the very first were our generation and what we're not doing to prepare for this. But then you went further, deeper over time. Why are your reasons that, and how do you know that more and more people going forward are not going to be planning in any way? Because you gave that pretty remarkable statistic.
Yeah, 52 million. I took that from the Center of Disease Control. That's the stats, that's their prediction. I'm hoping, and I know that I belong to a whole community of end-of-life crusaders who are trying to change it. Because as a nurse working with patients who may or may not survive their disease, we didn't have the tools we needed to have these really important conversations, and we saw a lot of patients suffer unnecessarily at the end of life. So there are people out there who are working hard. Like, we need to start having these conversations at the breakfast table with our kids, at the dining table, when everybody comes over on the weekend for dinner, start to have the conversations. And the more we squirm in our chair, just keep having them. And I promise you're going to stop squirming less and less the more you talk about it. And hopefully it won't be 52 million. That's my goal. Yes.
Is there do you involve kids directly? So like I had a client pass away and she didn't want a funeral. She basically didn't want to make a big deal out of it. And she did have a will and she stated these things, but the kids want to have a funeral, right? Like the kids want to celebrate their mom. And yet, right, it's her wish to not make a big deal, but the kids have their own wishes and they never really got to express that.
Oh, that's sad.
And I think they're gonna have a funeral because mom's gone. But is there, do you have a mechanism to involve the kids in a certain way so that the parents or the person who may pass away is able to know their ones as well?
Sure, I mean, the family can help, like within the palliative, where do you work? What do you do, McKinney? Okay, I'm working with financial planning, so they're gifting this. But, so in the palliative care and hospice environment, we're involving the family directly at the bedside to help with all of this. And for those of you who think like, you know, we just talked about this in a seminar yesterday, when people say like, you don't have to have a funeral for me. Just throw me out with the bathwater. You just go on with your life. You know, that's just like, it's not healthy because we grieve everything that happens to us in our life, stubbing our toe, like that's something that we internally grieve about. And to have someone so important suddenly ripped away from our lives and not to allow that person to grieve, it's horrible. And it's so hard. Has anybody not been allowed to grieve after somebody died? Because like my sister died of breast cancer, and she was somebody who was not ever going to die. And if I would bring up end of life planning, she would kick me out of the room and she would say, go. And if anybody's going to talk about it, I don't want you around me. And it was that extreme. And here I am as a nurse. So that was really hard to show up. And then to watch my family suffer because she didn't even tell her coworkers she was sick. So that's how extreme this can be. And so I get where this family's coming from, where she didn't want to have a funeral, but we all need that closure. And something chemically happens inside. There was a life celebrant that I spoke with yesterday, and he said there's actually a chemical reaction that occurs in our body with dopamine when we go to somebody's funeral, because it allows us to connect the dots, to spatially say that this person's no longer there, and it's okay for me to learn how to rearrange and disassemble and go on and move forward.
Celebration of life, not funeral. Celebration of life.
Yes. There's a lot, we all have a life we're celebrating. We do. Any other questions?
No, but I just want to say, I write the newsletter, so I already looked you up before you came today. But, no, they have death doulas.
Yes.
That's interesting.
At some point, I would love to, I'm a retired nurse, I would love to talk to you about that.
Actually, it's called end of life or death doulas because of these growing numbers of seniors over the age of 65, there's not enough healthcare workers to care for people during end of life. So they're certifying a lot of people who do it all. Like they'll come in and they'll handle everything, the spiritual aspect. It's called holding space for people. And they plan these beautiful deaths. And actually there's an international organization called ANELDA. If you want to look them up, I'm contracting with them because they saw the platform, because end-of-life doulas are using this platform to work with clients, just like we're using it in palliative care and hospice. Because we have the clinical research that says when you do a life review, when people talk about their life, they feel better. And they can be sick or healthy, so everybody benefits from remembering who they are.
I'm wondering why this is not part of the plan that you work through with the mortuary. My husband and I have planned everything after having buried 6 family members and settled 4 estates. We didn't want our kids to go through that, so we did all the planning. But they don't have you do something like this. You don't write your obituary.
So this is, I'm first to market. So I just started this in January. So I'm getting good traction because it's meaningful, right? And I am working with 2 funeral homes, Feldman Mortuary and the Natural Funeral Home. Have anybody heard of the Natural Funeral Home? Yeah. They made national news for the first green burial. It's pretty cool. So they're actually gifting this platform to their clients.
Well, it's a wonderful thing to incorporate, especially with a funeral home. that has places for your ashes to be placed rather than bodies and caskets and so forth, because they don't tell you what's going to happen after you're gone, and you can't plan the verbiage of the obituary or who's going to hold
Oh,
the
it's
service.
huge to think about, like, you've just been hit by a ton of bricks, and then somebody looks at you and say, well, what do you want to write about the person that just died? Yeah, it's horrible. Anything else? All right, who's gonna do their legacy? Not even, you don't have to do it on my site, but please, somewhere, share your life with the people that you love, and they will thank you for it.
Thank you very much, Maggie. Don't go away. One thing, we do have a certificate for you. They will have a donation made to the Polio Plus through Rotary, and it'll be matched by the Gates Foundation. So you'll be able to vaccinate 30 children.
Thank
So,
you.
And we have a 50-50, and you get to choose which ticket.
Wait, not that one? This one.
Okay, last three.
853?
I don't have my glasses on.
I can't see anymore, I need glasses.
Yeah, that's what I just went through. 853. 853. Come on, Shred. Thank you very much. I'll get this, I've got to bring the certificate up. One story that goes with that, my wife and I, 4 years ago, had gone through all this, of getting everything, getting the life plan set up and what we wanted to do. And one of the questions that one of the guys we was working with says, well, what about your children? They could have a car accident. Do they have any wishes? We had a meal, we approached our kids and grandkids and asked that question. You need to start talking about it now. So it is something that needs to be done.
Progressive right here. All right, Tom. I have cards. Should I pass my cards out?
I don't think, I have not been notified by any other announcements. So I think we'll have Bob come up and have Tom his spotter. Oh, okay. Not to you, not for you. I do want to make a reminder to everybody. The 29th of this month is our evening meal. So the 29th, the last Thursday of the month, because since we didn't have the first Thursday of the month, we made that the dark Thursday. So the the fourth meeting is the 29th. See, Jane's already left, because a lot of us will be on a cruise at that time. So we're going to need to know by next week who is planning to be at the 29th meeting. Because we have a guaranteed meal count. So that's what's been the agreement with Lone Tree. So we want to know how many, so we don't have a shortfall is not the concern. It is not having enough there and how many we're going to have there. Because the last evening meal, we were about 10 or so short. So
we have the 15th here, the 22nd here. You're concerned with the 29th.
29th, it's still here, but we need to know, find out, and so get it to Guy, so we can get it to Guy. Let us know who's going to plan to be here on the 29th of September.
Would that be a night meeting? Or?
It is an evening meeting. So that is correct. That's what's been planned for this first 6 months. Okay, take it away, Bob.
All right. Here you go, Tom. So we're very fortunate this wine is here. If I'd have had a corkscrew, I would have drunk it when she started this presentation. So this might be helpful as you're working on your legacy. Anyway, this is a top quality French Bordeaux, Clos Floridine Blanc. It is a white Bordeaux and originally made by Florence and Denis de Bordeaux. who is one of the top winemakers, was one of the top winemakers and taught at universities in France and so on. So this is a quality bottle of white wine. So let's start at 20. Anybody 20 would have been 20 bid a month. 20 now, 30. Anybody 30 bid a month. $30 dollar would have been. I got 30 now, 40. Anybody 40 $40 now, 50. Anybody $50 dollar 50 would have been a 50 bid a month. $50 do it. Dollar do it would have been a 50. I got 50 now, 60. I got 60 now, 70. Anybody 70 bid a month. $70 do it. Dollar do it. This is a good bottle of wine. Anybody $70 do it, dollar do it, bid a month, $70 do it, dollar do it, okay, 65, anybody 65. I got 65, I knew that we step up. Okay, 65 now, 70, anybody 70, bid a month, $70 do it, dollar do it, bid a month, $70 do it, dollar do it, 65 going once, 65 going twice. Sold to Debbie for $65.
I love it.
Thank you, Bob.
That's the way to say it,
So how about anybody have any happy bucks today? Anybody have anything they're happy about? Claudia?
I'm very happy because our 10-year-old grandson decided that it would be a really good idea to collect some food and donate it to IFCS. And so just on his own, he assured us it was not a school project. He's heard us talk about IFCS. He collected 75 pounds of food and we delivered it over to IFCS the other day. He couldn't come with us because he's 10 and he had to go to school.
Very good. Will you collect the money, please?
What?
Will you collect the money?
I suppose you want me to get mine out.
Teresa?
I have 10 happy bucks. Yesterday, Debbie and Claudia and I went over to the Aurora Rotary Club and spoke about our mental health committee. And it was a wonderful committee, and looks like we're going to be submitting a grant proposal to them to help us.
Debbie did a wonderful job. It was her first time.
Way to go, Debbie.
And they sing God Bless America. Yeah, they sing it, and they actually sound good. I told them we tried Happy Birthday, and it was a big flop. Phil Clark and Bob Orson.
Jen Sullivan?
Okay, this is a pass-through $20, happy dollars, for somebody whom I gave peaches to.
Oh.
And they were so excited about the peaches and they tasted so great that they wanted to donate $20 to our Rotary Club.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. Jeannie? Outstanding. Anybody else? Phil?
I'm giving $20 because, thank you. My son and I were in England a long time ago, and we were sitting eating in an Indian restaurant right across from all these people dressed in formal wear, waiting in line to see Queen Elizabeth at the palace. She used to sit out in the courtyard and greet every single person that would come every dinner. I'll always think fondly of Queen Elizabeth. So,
Very good. Jim?
This is $5 to give the pears some recognition, because those were the best pears, and
I'm glad to hear that.
I had worked out the fact that I had to split them up and give my son half now.
Yeah.
But they really are great.
The committee will have a final report about the peach pear sale next week. Anybody else?
I
Shreya.
got all my 50-50 for the happy box. We are so far ahead of our Bright Future fundraising effort. We are almost about $125,000 pledged today. So we collected almost about $110,000. There are a few more people that needs to make the pledges. So it's so glad to hear that we are well ahead of our plan.
Outstanding. Anybody else? Well, shall we all stand and say the four-way pledge? Of all the things and thanks that you do.
Is fair to all concerned, will build their friendships, will be beneficial to all concerned.
And make it fun.